All right, let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please. Here.
Myers.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Redland.
Here.
Thompson.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, everybody. We have everybody signed up for public comment tonight. We have multiple. Who's first on the list? Mr. Cotter, if you want to come up to the podium and introduce yourself and let us know what you got going on tonight.
My name's Jay Cotter, and I'm an assistant manager at 24/7, and I'm here to address an ordinance I'd like to see get put in place for public safety and health. Part of that ordinance is simply to deal with twofold. So it's about deli food items that aren't dated by the company where it's coming to you. So we're responsible for dating it when it gets put out. I've had to repeatedly address stuff getting future dated too much. So you're not actually able to tell when it's getting expired, meaning that when I restock it, then I'm stocking and having stuff that's expiring later than what I'm actually dating. And then if we clean it, rotate it, then you're not doing FIFO where first in, first out goes out, and you actually don't genuinely know what is actually expiring. With that being said, the solution I see to that, both from people not being trained and or people who just want to care more about profits, is to require it to be electronically dated so that you can't choose to date it what date you wish. That it has to go through the computer system when we put it out, and then again have it be illegal to not have it dated with that electronic and or to double label it to cover up an expired label. So that is the idea and the solution I've come up with, because it's something that I have had issues getting resolved, but that's going to be across the board for any business that is making their own labels, and the ability to cover it up and sell it past expiration is something I don't think truckers or the community wants to have to deal with, because food poisoning, if you've ever had it, is not fun to deal with at all. It kind of hits you instantaneously and it's not stopping from either end. So that's my public comment and a request for a local ordinance to be implemented. And I know they have that technology because I worked at Come and Go in Colorado, where pretty much everything got an electronic printout of when it was put out and when it's supposed to expire.
Well, we're definitely into a realm where I know little to nothing about. I would assume that there's probably a multitude of state and federal requirements regarding food and dating food and stuff that's out there. I mean, I don't know what those are and what's required on your end as far as dating and stuff on, especially on fresh foods. Yeah, I don't know. I guess my recommendation would be maybe to come in and talk with Kent during the day to try to get a better idea of exactly what it is. I mean, I kind of know what you're wanting, but to get a better idea of exactly what it is you're looking at, I don't know. I don't have any kind of a good response for you right now. That is not anything I was expecting to have to discuss tonight, for sure.
Understandable.
You don't ask me, what is the state health inspector said? Have you spoken to her about this?
I have not gone that route with it, and it's hard to tell that it's expired because it's future dated. We do move product quite quickly, but I have had to pitch product that I was paying attention to, and I've also seen it not FIFO'd. So then it also leaves it up in the air to whether or not you're going to grab the item that needs to go first. And then if it's not properly dated, then on top of that, if it's not going first and it's allowing to be expired, then you're risking it. And, you know, when it comes to like candies, you know, preserved meats and a thing, I understand, you know, past expiration is probably actually not bad, but when it comes to a refrigerated meat, that is something that I trust highly. I mean, I would rather not bend the rules on that type of a situation. And this was just the one solution I had to where it prevents people who are newly trained from messing up, and it prevents people who don't want to pitch and want to overstock from being able to do that.
I guess maybe I'm just naive, but I guess I just assume, especially kind of a larger company which you work for, like all the food's coming in, all that would already be taken care of by the time it got to you. But
So our freezer stuff isn't dated. It has like, you know, it's good in the freezer for a year. But when we put it out onto the deli, it is a set amount of time, once we have thawed it, that it's good.
so you have, the expectation is there for you to
To do it
follow.
properly, yes.
You're just hoping for a simplified, easier version
I'm hoping
to
for
keep everything.
a solution to the fact to make it impossible for someone to screw it up and or to mess with the system. And have it be simply on the customer, if we haven't gotten to it, that it's an actual genuine date that they can also understand. Because I don't think everyone here understands what a Julian date is. A Julian date is the year from 1 to 365, just numbered. And that's the way we label it. But that's up to us on what we put on it. In which case we can actually lie if we so choose.
Have you discussed with your company
I've had
about
more
your
conversations
idea?
about
Yeah,
it, and
okay.
it has not gone well.
I assume you probably have if you're right here at this point, but. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts, but I just, right offhand, I don't know what the best path forward would be here, other than maybe just coming in and just having just maybe a more long-form conversation during the day or something, but.
All right, thank you
All right,
very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is the first of the month. I
Yes.
think. So, okay, just my normal report from the hospital, just to let you know where we're at. Patient revenues for the past month, this is for the month of April that we're reporting on. Would have been from the May board meeting. Is patient revenues, we're at 3.5 million with our deductions or contractual adjustments of 1.6 million, leaving total net patient revenue of 1.8 for the month. And that's annual is 6.76 year-to-date through the end of May, or through the end of April. And total income then is 1.8 and 6.8. Offsetting that is salaries for the month. We're 601. My highlight covered that up. 601,000, 2.3 million for the year. Total employee-related expenses, benefits and salaries is 744, 3.3 million roughly for the year. One of the numbers that's come up on our expense side pretty significantly this year is contract labor, which we've talked about before, the staffing. So we're running well ahead of budget. It isn't a good thing. About for the month was 126,000, year-to-date 415,000 versus a budgeted year-to-date of 275. So it's pretty significant, the cost of having to hire temporary staff to cover the services. Total operating expenses then come in at 1.658 million and 6.3 for the year-to-date, giving us a total operating income, which is always nice to have an income, of 79,000 for the month and 199,000 for the year. Like I think we've talked about before, we're running a pretty flat budget. If we can make it on operations, then with some of the other income items below the line, 340B, tax revenue, et cetera. And that for the month was 143,624 year-to-date, giving us a total net income of $175,000 versus $658 year to date. Both of those are just a little bit ahead of budget. So, all in all, hospital's doing fairly well on the revenue side. Total days cash on hand is now at 279, so it's staying pretty close to, it's just up a couple of days from our last month. So we're, as long as we can keep our income and growing like that, we will do okay. So big shout out to the community. As we've said before, we don't do it without the help of the community. So I have, this past month, reported to the board on one of the issues that I know that has been important to the employees, and I'm assuming to the communities as well, is what is the benefits of this network that we've got going? As you all know, I run 2 hospitals, one in Atwood and one here. And how are we aligning those hospitals to benefit both communities? So, you know, we've gone through a number of benefits that we see, you know, sharing salaries, sharing resources of staff, not having to recreate the wheel, those kind of things, policies and procedures, all of those. There are some negatives. There are some things we're doing. One of the biggest ones, obviously, is the time on the road that we spend. And one of the other items is time zone change. It is really amazing how much that impacts you going from mountain time to central time. Coming from central to mountain, my staff that comes this way, they don't seem to have as much difficulty as those of us that go the other way. So it's just a little bit different. Some of
It's
the
the
other
earlier
things,
morning starts that it comes.
yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah. If I've got an 8 a.m. meeting in Atwood, that means I better be on the road before 6 here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't schedule 8 a.m. meetings for that very reason. One of the other challenges we have is just the community perception. So I kind of thought it would be good for us to kind of give you some of the numbers, how they map out, to let our community see that it really is a benefit to us to have these hospitals working together. We don't have a natural patient flow, so it's not about patient referral as much as it is being able to align finances, align HR, align, you know, the administration, and some of those things that make some sense. So, just to give you a quick number, this is through March. So we're looking at, since Atwood's on a fiscal year, we're looking at the 8 months, 9 months through March. So the income that we have received here in Goodland from Rawlins County is about $190,000. Annualize that to $253,000. The expenses that we have paid the other way, and we have a little bit going to Kit Carson because we also have a memorandum of understanding with them as well, but most of it's going to Atwood, is about $183,000 annualized for $243,000. That results in a net profit to Goodland of about $9,000. So it's not a ton, but we're saving. If we had to hire these positions that we are picking up from Atwood, and I will be honest with you, Goodland provides more services, more of the positions than Atwood does, but if we had to pick these up on our own, it's about $386,000 a year. So we're getting roughly that $9,000 benefit plus the $386,000. It's $395,000, almost a $400,000 benefit by having this network alignment. So just thought that was important for the community to know that this concept of managing multiple hospitals is working. You know, we talked about some of the negatives. It does take some time from the staff, and it is tough on those that are doing it, but it really is a benefit to the community. So just wanted to share that with you, and if anybody has any questions, be happy to answer those.
One of the things you said is, you know, the contract labor is still way up. Is there any kind of relief on the horizon in that regard that you can see, or you think it's just going to
Well,
kind of the way
we
it is
actually
right
had
now?
today one of the students from the college start on a respiratory therapy. So that's one of the contract labors that we have right now is respiratory therapy. We don't see a lot of relief on the rad tech, you know, the imaging side, and nursing. Those are the other ones that we have. We have, I think, 3 nurses right now that are travelers and a couple of rad techs. So, and you know, really, we are better off than a lot of hospitals around us. I mean, we talked to Kit Carson, and their numbers are double what we're paying out for contract labor. So, and Atwoods are, you know, are actually pretty consistent with what we're paying here, but they're a much smaller hospital, so you know, percentage-wise, it's a big deal. We just, you know, I know the colleges are working on turning out more nurses, but right now we're short, and it's not just nurses. You know, it's the rad techs as well. It's all the ancillary services. It's healthcare in general. And from what I'm reading in the, you know, on the news, it's not just healthcare. It's a lot of industries are short. I mean, we're still running at very low unemployment nationwide. So, but salary, you know, creep is a real issue. I mean, you all go to the grocery store. You know what you're paying now for milk and eggs and potatoes is the one that really blew me away. How much they've jumped year over
Yeah.
year. And, you know, our budget is about the same as it was 2 years ago. So we've increased salaries pretty significantly, but it's just still, it's difficult to try to get people recruited.
Yeah.
So we'll
Right.
keep plugging away.
You got anything else for Craig? All right, thank you, Craig.
All right,
Good.
thank you so much for your time.
Okay, well, let's move on to the consent agenda. We have A, commission meeting minutes, and B, the appropriation ordinances 2023-11, 2023-11A, and 2023-P11. Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns on those?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, items A and B.
Have a motion by Commissioner Redlin,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Howard. Any other discussion? Roll, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to presentations and proclamations. We will start with options. Come up to the podium and introduce yourself, please.
My name is Andrea Cross, and I am the Development Director at Options. Is there anyone that's unfamiliar with Options? Okay, all right. So I'm the Development Director in charge of fundraising, so I am, of course, here to ask you for money tonight. I believe you have a letter that states how much we're asking for.
Yes.
I think that is
$2,000.
$2,000. You also have your community or your county profile for Sherman County and also for Northwest Kansas. Should be in your packet as well, to provide some information about the services we provide. But I also do want to give you some updates about what's happening in the options area. We are celebrating our 40th year in service.
Awesome.
Options started out as a group of Fort Hays professors and a couple other community members who said, you know, somebody ought to do something, and realized that they were somebody, and started out by housing people on their couches. So we've come a long way from that. We cover the northwest 18 counties. We did a little math the other day, and that is an area larger than the size of Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, and Rhode Island combined. It's a 17,100 and some square mile area. Some of the highlights of our services this past year, everybody keeps talking about how we're going to go back to normal after COVID. And for us, the normal is we're going to keep going full guns because our service levels have not dropped. We are serving just as many people as we did during the pandemic, in fact, even more. The numbers that you have as statistics in your packet are from the KBI data of 2021, because we always have to wait a year for them to release their data. But a statistic from 2022, our director has been with us about 7 years now, and during the first few years she was with us, we spent close to $4,000 on hotels. And we use hotels as overflow when our shelter is full. Our shelter will hold 14 people at any one time. Okay. I have alarms set to get me places. So we spent close to $4,000. Last year, in 2022, we spent close to $80,000. So, again, not going down. We are working with the Hayes Police Department, specifically Chief Scheibler, to develop a lethality questionnaire so that when officers respond to a domestic violence situation, they can go through a series of questions to help the survivor know exactly how much danger they're in at that moment. Because when you're in a domestic situation, you've usually been in it a long time. It's not the first time it's happened when you get to the point where people will put hands on each other. So you get numb to it. And sometimes people don't realize exactly how much danger they're in. One of the other things that we have done since we knew we have an 18-county service area, we've developed our mobile advocacy initiative, and we have a mobile advocate that visits all of the counties in our service area at least twice a month if they don't have a local office. We also have a campus advocate, and she comes out to Goodland, to the technical college at Goodland, and I believe on Sherman County, we are going to be hiring a new person because the person who had been doing the mobile advocacy received an internal promotion. So happy problems, but yet we still have to fill that spot. But they were coming out the first and third Wednesdays and meeting at the Sheridan County Courthouse in the Commissioner meeting room from 1 to 3 p.m. So we make sure that we cover our whole entire area. Think of anything else I'm forgetting to tell you that's new? We are working to build shelter into our Colby office. There's a basement that's prime for that. The shelter model is moving from secret to secure, and we believe that we can provide secure shelter at that location, so it will be closer than trying to transport someone to Ellis County for shelter, and then also alleviate some of that burden there. So that is something that's coming up. Do you have any questions for me? Oh, and one of the other things, the gentleman from the hospital left, but I believe your SANE program is up and running at your hospital, which is a sexual assault nurses exam. So if someone is assaulted, they can go to your hospital and receive services, but also our advocates will come and provide services along with that situation. So, no questions?
Okay. Well, just for clarification, how is it that, I guess in general, but in our county specifically, do you get in contact with the individuals who need your services?
Well, our services are always voluntary. So officers are supposed to provide information about the services in their area. So, if the person chooses to contact us, then, and then, we've made ourselves available, and then, like if a nurse's exam happened, they usually contact us to be present if that survivor would like to have us there. So.
Yeah, so it's our officers who are relaying the information to the victims.
They're supposed to
who
be.
then
They're
will reach
supposed
out
to be.
to you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, in fact, I believe that's a state law, that officers provide information about who provides services in their area all across the state, so. And then we advertise. We have radio ads and put ourselves in newspapers and things like that to make sure that, I think that's part of the reason our services haven't gone down, is that we have been very good in making sure our name is out there and being proactive on that avenue.
Well, I know it's an invaluable service for those that need it, for sure, I mean, I can't imagine what people are like in that situation, I've
Well, when you look at the statistic that 22% of all murders in the state of Kansas are domestic violence related, is a real eye-opener. And a lot of what happens with domestic violence isn't illegal. You know, you guys do very well with your officers making arrests, and it's way above the state average, but, you know, that's only when it's gotten that bad. And, you know, financial abuse, we cover elder abuse. We have a lot of calls about elder abuse lately. We're doing a summit, looking for the word, summit on human trafficking. I believe that's next week. And that's kind of been a big buzzword, and everybody gets all up in arms about, you know, the articles on Facebook about Walmart parking lot. But a lot of human trafficking isn't the white van in the parking lot. It's people trading services for things, or in one instance, trading the services of their teenage daughter to the landlord for rent because he liked the daughter. And not in this county, but, you know, that does happen. And so we address all of that. Teen dating, we address that in schools with our Love is Not Abuse program. And so, and we make those contacts, but we also have to be invited. So we have a safe bar initiative. So if you own or know anyone who has a drinking establishment or just serves alcohol in general, who'd like us to come out and talk to people about how alcohol is sometimes weaponized in sexual assault, we can certainly do that. And Cut It Out is a service that we provide to beauticians who sometimes are the first people who recognize something's going on and can provide some information. So
Do all kinds of things, yeah.
yes, we do. We do. We just 2 months ago now did a presentation with the Russell Hospital of an evening, and had several of their people and their employees come out and learn about what to watch for.
You guys,
Oh, please.
you guys also offer, it's not just housing that you guys do, you guys also offer counseling and stuff like that.
We do.
That's a big part.
We have advocates available 24/7, 365 days a year, 366 on leap year, of course. We are always accessible. We were the first and may still be the only program in the state of Kansas and possibly the United States that has the option to use a mobile app or to text to an advocate, and that is available 24/7. We call it My Mobile Options. I did bring some literature for everyone if you don't have it posted anywhere. Poster about how for My Mobile Options, and then I also brought extra copies of the Sherman County and the Northwest Kansas information that you guys got, so that if you have anybody who asks, if you choose to give us money, why did you do that? You can say, because it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What did we did something last year. How much did we do? We did not? Different organization, okay.
yeah, I don't believe that
We've never given to options.
we've
Okay.
received anything from the city of Cookman.
Okay.
Have any questions?
But as far as like why we asked for the number we asked, that was based upon how many services we provide and the size of the county, and comparing it to cities similar to Goodland size that also donate to us. So if you're wondering why I asked for that specific amount, so.
Is all your fundraising usually just through donations? Is all your fundraising all usually just through donations? Or
I
can
do
you-
fundraising part, and then
Okay.
I also help grant write.
Okay.
A lot of our funding comes through federal grants, but we provide more services than our federal grants cover, so we have to fundraise the rest, so.
Okay.
Right. Okay, well, thank you. I will say that our budget discussion is going to be coming up here very quickly.
I understand my
And-
dad's the mayor in Russell. so
Yes, and I think it'll definitely
I
be on
understand
our
that
list
I
of
was-
stuff to consider, so.
At Russell County Commissioners this morning, and I'm off to Bird City now, so thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you and for everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to B then. Flock Safety, Public Safety Operating Systems Presentation. And Frankie's up. Yeah.
So I was tasked by Commissioner Showalter at the last meeting concerning license plate readers to get some information, but I'm an overachiever sometimes, so I went a little above and beyond what you asked for. It's the only way I know how to bring you this information, because the technical part of it, I don't know a lot about. I mean, I know what they do, I know, you know, what their purposes are. But I've got representatives from Flock Safety. I met Jim Fink at the Chiefs Conference a month ago, and he probably thought he'd never hear from me again, but here we are. And we also have Amy, which I've been corresponding with her, trying to get this set up and everything. So I will turn it over to them, and they can answer technical questions, and I can answer legal questions, or law-related questions, so.
Okay, well, good evening. Can you guys hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I
Yes.
can hear you.
Wonderful. And can you see the presentation that we're sharing?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you, commissioners. It's wonderful to be here. We appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this evening what Flock Safety is, a little bit about our company and how the technology works. And of course, Jim and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have as well. So I will start with just what our mission is. To give you a little bit of background on the company, this company started in 2017, and this started after our president and CEO was actually the victim of a crime. He and his neighbors were victims of car break-ins, burglaries, and when they ended up taking this video evidence to the police, and this is in Atlanta where our company is based, when he ended up taking that video evidence to the police, they said, this is helpful, but license plate information is really critical. And that's when he set out to really develop a product, a license plate reader product that was ethical, affordable, and something that was also very effective. So that is a little about how we started. And why Flock Safety? So want to talk a little bit about kind of where we are and what we believe the opportunity is here. So, of course, we're looking at limited police resources, crime is on the rise, and it's more important than ever to build trust with the community. This technology will actually act as a force multiplier, and it captures and distributes objective evidence. So I'll talk a little bit about that coming up in how the technology works. So what you're looking at here is what you would see when you use the Flock system. So this is what the camera actually looks like. And then here is the snapshot that you would get from that camera. So this is all objective evidence. This is what we refer to as a vehicle fingerprint. It's objective, it's real time, and it's investigative leads for law enforcement. So what you're looking at is the rear of a vehicle, the plate, the timestamp, the make and model of the car, the color. So what you're not getting out of this evidence is there's no people, there's no facial recognition, and no traffic enforcement. So by looking at that photo, we are not getting any information about who's driving that vehicle. And as I mentioned, the technology is license plate recognition, gathers objective evidence about vehicles, not people. And we work with your state laws, your local jurisdiction laws. We also more importantly, perhaps, is what the technology isn't. As I mentioned, no facial recognition, not tied to any personal identifiable information, and it's not used for traffic enforcement. The other thing that's important to point out is our data is stored securely in the cloud, and it's not stored beyond 30 days. So unless this is information that is used by your law enforcement agency that is directly tied to a crime, then the data will be deleted automatically every 30 days. How the technology works to prevent and eliminate crime, both proactive, investigative, as well as a deterrent. These cameras act as a deterrent because when people, suspects or potential criminals might know where a camera is, they, of course, do not want to get caught. One of the things that's very important to flock safety is mitigating risk and protecting privacy. I want to talk a little bit about how we do that. So the footage is owned strictly by the agency. So it would belong to Goodland Police. As I mentioned, the 30-day retention policy, and then it's deleted. It really takes the human bias out of crime solving because what we're looking at is the back of a vehicle, and we're detecting events based on objective evidence. As I had mentioned, all the data is stored securely in the AWS government cloud, which is the most secure you can get for government storage. And a search reason is required for every audit. So you can't just go in and look up a make and model of a car. It would need to be tied to a crime. It would need to be triggered from a specific hot list. There's no facial recognition software, and it's not used for traffic enforcement, nor is it tied to any other outside database such as Carfax or the DMV. One of the things that we offer as well is a transparency portal. And this is something that is optional, but that is definitely something that a lot of our agencies that use. This is customizable for every agency. So what you could display in this, you could make it available to the public. You could display metrics, the policies, the license plate reader policies that your department has, as well as crime patterns. You can do audits on this information. So you would be able to go in and based on the users, you could do an audit and see who's using the system, how many specific vehicle hits that you're getting, and really pull up that search history and post it online for transparency. You also can do audits. You can do audits anytime, but it's just another tool that you could use in this transparency portal. So how this technology actually solves and prevents crimes. First, I want to show slide. These are some of the other jurisdictions, actually all of the other jurisdictions that have adopted flock technology throughout Kansas. So it shows you there's quite a few that already have flock technology. And then this is just a snapshot. I want to show a few real life examples. This is out of Wichita, Kansas, what has occurred since they implemented the technology. 197 vehicles recovered. And these are stats specifically from the time frame I should mention, November 2020 to May 2021. So things have changed a bit, but this is just in their first few months of having flocks. You can see quite an impact there. And then I wanted to share a couple more examples with you just so you can get an idea of some of the different types of crimes that can be solved using flock technology. This was a stolen vehicle and kidnapping out of Wichita. This suspect was charged with 2 counts of kidnapping, child endangerment, and interference with parental custody. The flock camera system was able to locate his vehicle about 40 minutes after this occurred. The children were safely rescued, thankfully. And then this is another one, just to show another example for you. This is actually out of San Bruno, California. This was a jewelry store robbery attempt, and the suspects came in. The jewelry store owner was actually able to fight them off, but the police there were concerned that the suspects might show up again and they may escalate. And that's exactly what happened, except the vehicle was placed on a custom hot list out in San Bruno, and because of that, the license plate was picked up on a flock camera when the vehicle drove back into the shopping center, and they were able to thwart another robbery attempt. In this one of the things that the flock system is used for is Amber Alerts. This is actually out of Chamblee, Georgia. This is a stranger on stranger abduction. This mother was pushing her child in a stroller on a street in her town, and she was approached by two strangers. The strangers grabbed the baby, put the baby in their vehicle, and drove away. And she was not able to get the license plate, but she was able to get a physical description of the car, the make and model, and she reported that to police. They were able to use the Flock system to identify the car, found this child unharmed less than 6 hours later in a different state, actually in Alabama, and they were able to rescue the child and safely reunite him with his mother. Wanted to give you an idea of what the Flock poles or what the installation might look like. So the cameras are infrastructure free, so you can put them anywhere. They are powered by solar, and these are some of the different options that you might be able to use if you installed Flock in your city, so you can get an idea of what that looks like. And that is all I have for this evening, but we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question. I'm just curious as to what other communities, what have you seen as far as creative ways to fund these cameras besides just budgeting for them? Have you seen that there are grants available, anything like that?
I would say that, okay.
I'll take that question. There's a variety of different options, whether you local businesses, because they're helped by using Flock Safety as well. There are some technology grants. KDOT does a click it or ticket program, which may or may not apply. I think the biggest thing we've found is that by creating a virtual gate around Goodland, that the safety and security becomes even more apparent, and people want to be able to help fund this project either through their community or through your businesses.
So talk numbers, I guess. What is a camera cost, and what are the ongoing costs of maintaining it?
Sure. So I'd just like to introduce myself so you don't think I'm just some guy talking on the camera. I live in Wichita, Kansas. I actually live in Mays, a small suburb. We have a population of about 6,000 with 9.63 square miles. And I was a victim of a porch pirate six and a half years ago before Flock Safety ever existed. And I had the make and model of the vehicle, but could do nothing with it. Fast forward to 6 months ago, and my HOA was victimized again. And because of the HOA cameras that we are now putting in, and the cameras that Wichita PD and Mays Police Department has, they were able to catch that porch pirate in 45 minutes. So to summarize, what I put together for the chief is a 5-camera package that virtually creates a gate around your city for all incoming entrances to the city. Kind of like if you close your doors at night, you only want to lock just one, you want to lock all of them. It's $3,000 per camera, and there's a one-time implementation fee per camera based on whether we use existing poles or we put our poles in the ground. We do the 811 survey, the site survey, the solar survey, the installation, and the maintenance. So with a standard 2-year contract, everything is under warranty for 2 years, and you have the option to renew. If you wanted to do a 1-year contract, I actually offered that to the chief as well.
Good. Thank you.
So I'm just curious as to how your technology works when you got your cameras up and the vehicles are driving by. Is it just taking constant video of what's going on? Is it recognizing the back end of cars and taking snapshots as the day is going on? So like when you need to, say, Chief Hayes contacts you, says, hey, we had something happen 2 hours ago. Are you going back? Are you looking at snapshots that have been taken and are saved on the cloud? Are you going through the video and then at that point, like slowing down per vehicle and reading what the license plates are? I'm just curious as to to how the technology works, the software works on your end.
So how the technology works, let's say somebody was coming off of I-70 into the city, and we have a camera there, which was part of our proposal, and it was a stolen vehicle. The stolen vehicle alert would come directly to the chief via email, text message, or through the software itself from NCIC. If somebody did something in the city, or you had a make and model of a vehicle or even a partial plate, you'd be able to put in a date and a time, up to 10 different dates and 10 different times, and search either by make, model, color, partial plate, no plate, temporary tags. And we do a series of snapshots that take 30 frames per second and narrow down the best picture of the back of the vehicle itself with a close-in picture of the license plate.
And also to build on Jim's point as well, just to add that if a vehicle is not involved or coming from any hot list or not identified as being part of any crime, as I mentioned in the presentation, there has to be a search reason to search for this particular vehicle. If these are just vehicles that are driving by and they're not involved in anything, it's a snapshot and it goes into the cloud and is automatically deleted after 30 days. So there's no use for it unless it's part of a criminal investigation.
Okay, thank you.
And if I understood them correctly, I will have access to be able to go and do that. Am I correct in remembering that?
You would have an internal audit that you could do on any search that's done in your system forever. It's not on a rolling 30-day basis. Your audits are available to you forever.
So Frankie could go in, say if he has details of what he's looking for, he can go in and do the search on his own and come up with the details of what the cameras have.
Yes, any user can do that, and you can assign specific roles to have specific access.
So I guess, Chief, I'll put you on the spot then a little bit. I know I brought this up and asked you to bring a presentation here. I see value in the system and I've seen value in it. But I'm just one member of the commission. Is this something that you see value in? Could your department use this? Is this something valuable to the community? What are your feelings? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a valuable tool. Probably one of the most valuable because it can see where we can't. If we're on one side of the city, something happens on the other side of the city, at least we have a description, a license plate. Plus, it also will sync with all the other flock cameras. So if you noticed on the list, there's one in Wallace County. So if it hits ours and we've already put it in the system, it hits, they're going to know about it too. So it's definitely eyes where we can't see. Plus, we have, KHP has a camera at the state line, but it's only eastbound, which makes sense. But so if people are coming westbound, we're a big stop, So if they get off exit 17 or 19, camera will pick them up. It's also useful in drug investigations. We can put, if we're doing or watching a vehicle, we can put that in, and every time it crosses, it's gonna give us a notification. So it does more than just find stolen vehicles or stolen license plates. It can definitely help us in investigations, even if it's a theft at Walmart. They said, oh, it was a green Impala. Well, I can go back, I can look, green Impala, boom, there it is. So yeah, it's definitely a helpful tool.
I think where I'm interested in seeing just, what exactly it can do or, would like to see it used for is, like we had today with the Amber Alert that came through across, the state, that would be something those cameras could be looking for. So if that vehicle came into Goodland, that we could, assist and try to make make an arrest and help somebody that way. So for me, I see value. I know that budget time is coming up here pretty soon, and I would hope that we could find a way to get that in the budget someplace.
I got a couple questions still. One just kind of popped up on what Commissioner Showalter just said. So does the technology work that way? Say like if an Amber Alert was put out and they had the plate number and description and stuff, is that something that would be put into your system so that anywhere around that uses your system would recognize that and alert the local law enforcement if that vehicle came through your camera system?
Yes, so the short answer is yes. So the NCIC updates itself 6 times a day, every 4 hours. When you have an Amber Alert, a Silver Alert, or anything that's listed through the NCIC, any camera that captures that specific vehicle would get an alert either through the software. If you don't have the software open, you would have it on a text message or an email.
Okay, that's really awesome, actually. That's really cool. And the other question I had was you had said you had quoted a 5-camera system for Chief Hayes. I was just curious as to where those cameras were going to be located at, where at in town, where those 5 cameras going to be.
If I have the ability, I don't think I do, to share my screen, but the chief has a proposed map. There's 2 different versions, a big version overview and a street side overview that has all your different locations. So if I were just to give you the information that I have right now, so number 1 would be on Sandy Road at Highway 24 northbound.
That would be exit 19. For those who don't.
Number 2 would be Highway 24 at Highway 27 northbound. And these are just cross streets.
Mm-hmm.
The other would be Cattle Trail Avenue at West 8th Street coming eastbound. Number 4 would be 16th Street at Highway 227 southbound. And the last one would be Road 66 at North Caldwell Avenue southbound. So if you kind of think about it, it creates almost a virtual gate around your city.
I think another piece that I would like to re-emphasize too, and you know, anytime we talk about putting up traffic cameras or anything like that, that people think about cameras that are going to send you a ticket in the mail, and that is not what these are designed for. They're looking for serious crimes and things like that. It's not a traffic fine generator system.
Right. There's no uninsured motorists. There's nothing tied to the DMV. There's nothing tied with speeding. And as of course the chief knows, and I've worked with your department over many, many years since I've lived here for 17 years. I did speed enforcement with Stalker Radar. You can't write a speeding ticket on unmanned enforcement cameras.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, Jim, Amy, thank you for joining us this evening and making your presentation. I do think it is a very cool technology that you have that could have a lot of great uses.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Chief,
Anything
thanks
else?
for taking the time to put that together for us.
No, absolutely, absolutely. No, any other questions for me as far as that goes?
Not right now.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we don't have any ordinances or resolutions this evening, so let's move on to formal action, starting with a temporary liquor permit for the Sherman County Community Foundation.
Hello, good news.
Yes.
I'm here to ask for money. Although, if you want to give the foundation any money.
Yeah.
Most of you know me. I'm Jessica Cole. I sit on the board of the Sherman County Community Foundation. Just a little thing about the packet you have in front of you. We're doing really well. The foundation, good news. We're almost $1 million foundation.
Awesome.
Really excited about that. We feel like we do a lot of good for Sherman County. If you've been part of our match day or anything like that, we hope you see that stuff around town. We're trying to build our endowment. However, so this Legacy Society event is a little thing about that, trying to get people in Sherman County to think about the foundation in their wills or in their estate planning. So that's what we're looking to do at the museum on June 29th. Should be a smaller event, 50 to 60 people. We aren't selling anything. We just want to be able to offer them a glass of wine or a beer for the presentation. Any other questions?
Looking for an alcohol permit then, I assume?
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding her request?
I'll move to approve the temporary liquor permit for the Sherman County Community Foundation.
Okay, and this will be for June 29th, correct?
Correct,
Yep.
at the museum.
We have a motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second?
a second by Commissioner Myers. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. All right.
Perfect,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
See y'all match day.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to B, the Water Department radio proposal. Kent?
Mayor Thompson and Commissioners, this is basically just an update. We talked about this or presented some information in March regarding the radio system with the Water Department. Basically, it's a radio communication that gives Neil and all the other folks within the Water Department critical information regarding how the towers and the wells interact with the water treatment plant. There's a set of radio equipment that's within that system, and we had talked rather at length regarding the vendor as far as Timberline radio control, and they had given us and stating that our radio equipment is over 20 years old when most of the time they're replaced every 10 years. And but the hardware and different stuff that's involved with it helps it survive a lot of different situations and be able to keep operating and functioning correctly. What they're proposing is to replace the radio equipment inside. The Motorola hardware is no longer supported, which I keep saying that more often and more often, it seems, with all types of our different equipment that are involved. And they gave us a quotation. We were able to remove one item, although we have a little bit of a question regarding the software. We're going to get that cleared up with the vendor regarding it, but we have a total amount now of $130,000. And this is basically for the 9 sites that are the wells, and then you have the 4 towers, and then you have the water treatment plant. So that's 14 total sites that are involved with this. And I think there's one other that I'm not mentioning here. Correct, Neil? See, I needed to stop and get you involved as well, so I didn't describe this whole thing. That's all of them? Okay. So there's 14 different locations that are involved. And after talking with them, then the delay in equipment, which is another issue that seems to be with almost anything we're ordering these days. It'll probably get here in the fall. With that kind of timing, staff is recommending let's go ahead and try to take care of this entire thing at once. We'll probably, and Mary can describe it better than I can, but we are taking from the municipal equipment reserve fund, which is what we, put into every budget year. And we have a certain amount within that can be dedicated to this. We have about $80-some thousand that can be dedicated. And then we'll be borrowing from other projects in order to pay off the remainder of it. And we'll have to include that in the budget for 2024 and possibly to pay back that part of it. But this is such a critical issue within the water department that rather than trying to do it piecemeal, we're wanting to do the entire thing and get it accomplished. So that's what the proposal is before you today.
If I remember correctly, we talked about this a while back. I can't remember when everything was brought up, but there was some communication with the Timberline. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
And then that they were going to try and like work with us for a couple of years, but that seems like is that still the case, or are we just saying, let's just go ahead and move forward and just do it all at once? Like we were going to do, like break it out over a couple of years.
They will work with us however we would like, and recommendations were, let's do it all at once, so we don't have payments coming out of 2 different years, and if something happens, they don't know what's happening, they're gonna introduce problems on clerical side.
Well, and then on the warranty would still be under 1 year instead of between two, what's under warranty, did this one expire first, or whatever?
Correct. They'll retain you when you do it all.
Okay.
Any other questions? So hopefully, if we do this, this will keep us going for another 20 years. Right.
That's what Neil's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that means you're gonna be here for the next 20 years.
So the total amount we're looking at is $130,030, I believe is what it says.
Yeah.
Well, I will make a motion to approve Timberline's proposal for the amount of $130,030.
I'll second.
Have a second by Commissioner Redland. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to C, the engineering contract for the industrial park project for the base grant implementation. Kent?
And I'll be asking for Andrew to.
Yeah. I figured I'd just let you go.
To introduce this, I guess, but Andrew, when we've been talking the entire time, but we received a base grant at the end of April that was for a project, a $1.8 million project in the industrial park. And between sewer, water extensions, and street extensions. Now, the Department of Commerce asked for some, what they called pre-award documentation, and there was a number of items that they wanted submitted to them in order to move forward with the engineering contract to develop plans and specifications. We asked for a number of items from, and they're minor items, from EBH and from different parts of the city system that Mary and I had put together and put into it. And then but one part of it was they were, normally in these type of awards, they want to ask us to do an RFQ for engineering services. But since EVH acts as basically our city engineer and also has the plans from the previous projects and also provided the estimate for the actual grant application, we submitted some information to the Department of Commerce, and they allowed us to go ahead with the actual engineering contract to develop plans and specifications with EVH. So they did a waiver regarding that requirement. So that's where we're at this point, and then I asked Andrew to present, have a contract so that it could be approved, since the Department of Commerce is acting, wants this to move forward as quickly as possible. So there's a time frame that they're kind of insisting upon.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a whole lot more to add. I guess you guys have any questions first before I kind of go next steps, plan of attack?
There was one thing, is nothing to do with the contract, it's more the wording in the contract, I don't know, but under, section 2.4.3 regarding for services under, it says for services under paragraph 1.8.
Yeah.
Charges and service should be 1.4.
Yep, we corrected it.
Okay.
Yep.
I spent a little bit of time looking for 1.8.
Looking for
not
1.8,
gonna
it
lie.
wasn't in there, huh? Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, I guess there, is there any other questions?
I have one, and it's more curiosity, I guess, under your rate schedule on there.
Yes.
What position is the project supervisor pilot?
Project supervisor pilot is
Yeah.
on our survey department. So basically, we have a drone where we think it's beneficial and can save money to the community or for the project. We'll fly that out and use that drone. On this project, we more than likely will not.
Okay.
So there's a little bit more vegetative cover, and there's some piles out there and some different, surprisingly, topographic features that we'll get some harder shots on the ground. So,
Okay.
So yeah, that's our pilot.
I was just curious, since it was $500 an hour, I didn't know if there was an opening.
No, just like you guys are learning, technology is not cheap.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And there are some projects where that's very beneficial. It does save a lot of time, but then there's other projects where that sometimes doesn't work either. So, yep. And again, the design is lump sum. The construction's time and materials not to exceed, just like any other project. If we get a good contractor, we might only use half of that, and that's all that gets paid out of that portion of the contract. So we've had projects where we haven't, we've used half of that, but then again, we've had a project where it drug out over 3 years. The last big streets project that we did, we came pretty close to that number. So I don't anticipate coming anywhere near that number as long as we get a good contractor. That's usually the case. So.
You have any other questions? Comments, concerns?
I guess one thing on here, I didn't ask you before the meeting, so I apologize, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a time constraint as far as when the engineering plans will be completed within
I
this
don't-
contract?
I don't believe so. We'd have to look into that. We're working on, we've actually just bid out a base grant that was awarded, the base 1.0, this would be
Yeah,
base
first
2.0. Their only constraint was that 10% of the, I believe the funds they were getting from the state are encumbered or spoken for, I guess. I don't know what the right word would be, under contract before the first of the year. So I believe and we might not use that in the engineering contract, but you have that under contract now, I believe, because you were getting, was it 1 point something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the I think the 10% would be covered. So, plus, my goal, and I'm sure it's the city's goal too, we're gonna try to get this thing bid out and awarded here before the first of the year too. So, move forward with it as quickly as we can.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And that might be split depending on weather, correct, as far as water and sewer project and then.
Yeah, that's a discussion I think we're gonna have
Internal
UI
shop.
internally, everybody on how we want to put that together, whether it's water and sewer being a package, street being a separate package, putting it all together. What's going to be the most beneficial? So, save the
Okay.
most money.
So I guess on the wording, do we need to say just the total dollar amount? Do we need to split it up on the motion? I just need to do for a total of 200,000, a lump sum of 80,
I would go with the 80 and the
and
120,
the 120.
as stated in the contract, and then if you say it as stated in the contract. in the document.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to approve the contract for engineering services regarding the base grant implementation for a lump sum of $80,000 and time and materials not to exceed $120,000.
Second that.
I have a second by Commissioner Showalter. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Andrew.
Next week, the guys ought to be out there to start the survey work, so
Cool.
we'll get
Thank
moving
you.
on it quick.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have an invitation for bid, demolition award bid regarding the property over at 1523 Colorado, I believe.
Yes.
Again,
Again, yes, that's correct. So I just took these today, so that is what is out there right now. And then there's a few other pictures that were from last week as well. The one trailer is completely gone, but there still is 3 sewers that need capped on that property. And then obviously the one trailer completely removed and a small shed. We put another bid out, only received one back, and that was for $48.50, I believe was the number on that, for Rippey, BK Pumping. And my recommendation would be to go forward with this so we can stop talking about it.
I mean, I know this property has been a struggle. And it has been, and it's hard when you're dealing with humanity in the middle of a project as well, it makes it tough, and especially when he was seemingly ambitious to get this taken care of himself, which said he did get the trailer gone, but there is still a massive amount of stuff
Yes.
still there. I do have, I guess, a question on the bid. So he put a wording in here that he said if the C&D is added beyond the pictures provided by the city of Goodland, B&K has the right to adjust the bid. B&K will contact city manager prior to start of any work if this happens. So I'm assuming this is going to be to clean up all the stuff that's on the property as well.
So it doesn't include anything that he moved over to 820.
And that is
16th, which is where the
House.
remnants of the trailer went and where the house is located.
Where does the property line get,
So-
back it up one picture to that shed?
Yes, go to the shed picture. The property line, from what I estimated, would be right along the side of that shed, to the south side.
To the south side, so that shed would get removed too.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then everything in it.
Get it? I'll make a motion to award the demolition bid to B&K Pumping for $88.50 for the removal of or $48.50 for the removal of everything on that property.
I have a motion by Commissioner Howard,
Second that motion.
a second by Commissioner Showalter. Any other further discussion? I do have a question. So then so the majority of the stuff that came out of that trailer is now laying out in the yard at the other property.
He is using the tin off of that trailer to actually replace that roof and some of the timber out of it on that shed there. So he is trying to repurpose it, but there's also a lot of stuff out there that I've told him needs to get moved on. I think he's at a standstill with property taxes and everything that's about to happen,
Yeah.
and he doesn't know what to do with it.
I just, I hope we can get this property cleaned up, but I don't want the other property to be forgotten about moving forward, I guess is my concern. Because there is a massive amount of stuff still laying out in the yard. But, okay. Anything else? Roll, please.
Redland,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, moving to E, we have the contract mowing bid award. Kent?
Originally, bid's probably a little bit of a misnomer in that we sent out a bid, we did not receive any replies. directed Zach to contact some folks directly, and we ended up with one reply for contract mowing, and that's what's presented to you tonight.
That was for $32 an hour, and that's from Mr. Rickard. And I would recommend to approve that.
And I do know earlier today it came in a different discussion that over 60 properties have already been contacted regarding mowing. That doesn't mean they'll get to the contract mowing stage, but the pipeline is starting, and obviously with our recent rains, we're gonna have, I would think, more folks to get contacted here fairly soon, so.
Do we require liability insurance?
Yes, which should be, I don't know if she attached it with there, but he does hold liability.
So I know historically, at least for as long as I can remember, this has been a contracted job that we have done outsourced. Is there, I guess I don't know, why is this not something we could do in-house?
You know, there's a couple different reasons why the city chooses to do it this way, and that's what they've done over the years. And if council wants to do something different, that's okay too. What's difficult is on a lot of these properties, it takes more time than you would on a regular yard to mow, so there's the time factor. We mow an awful lot in the city already, both through our parks, our right-of-ways, and lots that the city owns just because they've ended up owning them one way or other. And a number of our own buildings. And we have basically, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 people at various times that are involved with mowing with the city already. The other thing is regarding the equipment. On some of these properties, especially the properties that get to the contract mowing stage, which there's a property near a couple commissioners, or 2 different properties that 2 different commissioners have mentioned to me, that you can mess up your equipment pretty easily. And we wouldn't want to take equipment that is used for all of our other properties to be able to be used to mow these type of properties. There's also the opportunity for other things to happen, whether it's damage to the building or to passers-by. There's additional, just like you pointed out, Commissioner Howard, as far as liability insurance. Obviously, the city has liability insurance, could cover that. But because of those type of items, the city has decided to keep it as a contract. Now, that doesn't mean on occasion, and it's happened in last summer when I was here as well, there might be an occasional property that we end up having, because of time issue, have the city take care of them. But if, and I don't know, I don't have that in front of me, I did have an estimation, you had asked for it earlier today, Mayor, as far as for the last 5 years. In 18 and 19, we had $4,900 and $5,100 was spent on contract mowing. In 2020, we had 4,000. And then I guess, even though I know there was an awful lot of letters sent out last year, that's been a reduced amount the last couple of years. In 21, it was just over $3,000, $3,089. And in 22, it was $2,571. So it's gone down the last couple of years. We've also gone to a method where we send a letter once and that's good for the entire year. So it is kind of surprising that we haven't ended up with more properties to take care of, because people may forget that they've been warned already and it could go to contract mowing. But hopefully that answers part of the question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Could I get Mr. Ricard to come up to the podium, please? Good evening.
Yes, sir.
So I have a kind of an issue with your bid sheet, and I imagine you could probably guess what my issue might be. I don't know. Could you let us know what you put down for your bidder's name on the bid sheet, please?
All American Services.
That's not the name that I have as your bidder's name on my bid sheet here.
What is that, sir?
Do you not remember what you put down as your bidder's name on your bid sheet?
Should have been All American Services or Damon Rickard.
Well, Damon Rickard is part of it, but there's,
Come up here and look. I don't want to say it out loud.
I do see that, sir. That's a automatic sign for some vet messages that I send out. Obviously, I overlooked that.
okay. I guess if you don't want to say it, I'll say it, so that everybody knows what we're dancing around here, but
I addressed the bid name as Damon motherfucking Rickard.
you did, yeah. And oversight or not, I mean, there's a certain level of professionalism, I guess, I expect when the city's doing contracts with people. And to hear, I mean, it does seem like you were generally surprised and did not realize that that is what auto-generated on your form, but that is the form that I do have in front of me.
I understand.
Hence why I was asking questions regarding if there was other avenues regarding our mowing services, because I was not very happy about receiving a bid with that, but if somebody put that bidder name down as their bidder's name on the bid.
Accept.
But, so, I mean, that's just kind of my biggest thing. I think, $32 an hour, I think is a fair amount. Our last contract was at $25 an hour, and that was 4 years ago. Just with the cost of things, $32 an hour now is well reasonable, I think. But, yeah, that did not sit well with me. So just maybe into the future, double check things, especially if you're doing contracts with, make sure that things aren't auto-generating things they shouldn't be.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
I guess I would request that that be redone before we revisit this, maybe at the next meeting. Resubmitted.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do that for us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What are we, so I do,
Are we gonna have any properties that will need to be mowed before the next meeting?
so that, yeah, that is also a concern.
Can we put it in like,
Change them, then it can happen.
yeah, as soon as the name is changed, then the contract can be awarded? Can we word it that way? Or is that, I don't know.
Like make a motion to approve the bid pending
Pending the
changing of the name to
bidding name to
whatever,
All American Services.
All
or
American
whatever.
Services.
I don't know. I guess I'm looking at Jake. Mhm.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'll make the motion to approve the contract mowing bid award to All American Services for $32 an hour.
I have a motion by Commissioner Redlin,
Saying that.
a second by Commissioner Showalter. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, move on to a temporary liquor permit for the VFW for the Gilliland wedding reception.
Okay, hi, I'm Jade. Sorry I stay on my tippy toes back here, so make sure you hear me. I just wanted to kind of run this by you to get a temporary liquor permit for the VFW to come and serve liquor at a cash bar at our wedding. Trying to keep it in a rules of safety for the individuals there, as well as keeping everything nice as it was before, and then also making sure that we're supporting local VFW and also local businesses as much as we can. So just looking to kind of get that approved if possible and just have a good, safe night.
So this will be for June the 10th, it looks like, into the
Yep.
11th, starting at 4 p.m. on the 10th through 1 a.m. on the 11th.
It probably won't last that long. So that's my guess, is that we're all going to be exhausted from the whole wedding planning and ready to go to bed. So.
May not last that long for you. All right, anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this?
I guess I've never seen one with a street road sidewalk event. Is this out in the street in front of the VFW then?
It'll be out at the pavilion at the fairgrounds, and it'll be just inside the building. Obviously, since it's county, city land, got to make sure to keep it inside the building. And I have signs already printed off for 2 on each of the entrances to say no alcohol beyond this point, so individuals know they're not allowed to have it outside on the grounds. And I'll make sure DJ announces that. Keep alcohol inside the premises, only in the building.
I would make a motion to approve your temporary liquor permit for the Gilliland wedding reception.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter and a second by Commissioner Howard. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Redlin?
Yes.
Showalter?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that was a lot of formal actions for one meeting. Let's move on to discussion items, starting with traffic signals and the traffic cabinet inventory report. Kent?
Director of Public Power, Dustin Bedore, met with Gaddy's company and doing an inspection and inventory of our traffic cabinets, basically for our 3 traffic light intersections, and regarding their information. And this is the report that was given back, and they've authorized us to just go over this. Thought it would be easier just as a discussion item to start with, and then at a future meeting we may have some additional requests for decisions for you to consider. So go ahead, Josh. They basically have some point of contacts, they have notes, they have a maintenance strategy for tech life cycle replacement and the integration of life cycle replacement. There's 3 intersections. One is shared with the state, although I don't know what part is, well, I do know, but one is shared with the state, and I gotta quit my audited comments here. The city controllers include 3 EPAC 300s, and the city management malfunction units include what they state there, and they have battery backup. Then there's not battery backup systems at the location. So go ahead to the next one, Josh. And the next one. You have 3 cabinet supported intersections, what we said. As far as a shelf stock or inventory behind what's already on the ground, there's not a backup system that we have within our system. Your detection systems consist of a mixture of timed and black and white cameras. And that will be stated later in the 7 or 8 slides that they have here. And they have 3 preemption systems that work in conjunction, or 0 preemption systems that work in conjunction with emergency vehicles. And then as far as the battery backup again, go ahead. Of course, Unix no longer supports software and controllers older than the M60 series. Your controllers will continue to work, but software updates will no longer be provided for the older controllers. They recommend future consideration of upgrading each of the 3 aging controllers in the M60s. Due to the cost of the upgrades, and recommend instituting a life cycle replacement program and replace the EPAC 300s. They're the oldest and would have the highest level of failures within it. And they also recommend keeping a shell stock in place for any unforeseen catastrophic failures. How much shell stock you have used over the past year to support failing controllers or MMUs. This will give you an idea on lifetime replacement percentage. There's also an issue regarding conflict monitors, sometimes referred to as malfunction management units, that are older than 12 years cannot be rectified or validated via the EDI. EDI is the company that makes the systems. They recommend certification of the MMUs every 12 months. They actually ask that these traffic lights be inspected every 12 months. It's difficult to identify the dates on some of your cabinets due to the age. Some are relatively new, and on some I expect to be in excess of 30 years. Recommend replacing any conflict monitors or MMUs that are older than 10 to 12 years. Goodland has 1 MMU and 2 conflict monitors in place. As you prioritize your upgrades or identify life cycle replacements, I recommend anything you see is older than 10 years. It's that 10-year, with technology. Gotta have new. But they give some good explanations here. They mentioned the battery backup system. That reduces OT for any public service employees that are getting called out at night. They also consider solar signs when upgrading our FDs or LED flashing lights. Go ahead to the next one, Joe. Install poles and other things to protect the cabinets. It would be an issue for a while, especially, I don't expect the cabinets at the 11th and 12th intersection to be in that much danger, but the cabinet at Highway 24 and K27, I'm surprised it hasn't been hit already, but with someone missing the intersection.
You brought it up.
Yeah. I'm not saying that.
You brought it up.
Consider a preemption system in congested areas for emergency vehicle. It might help at the 24 and 27. I don't know about the ones downtown if it's that critical for the emergency services. They also reviewed as far as the school zone lighting, and they make a couple recommendations regarding that. They mentioned regarding our cabinets and light coordination, internal fans, and state shared intersections. And Goodland has 1 state shared, but down to number 12 basically is what's important for you all. Goodland has 1 state shared road. Although we maintain it, KDOT will often share or pay for upgrade costs. I'd love to see that. You should be receiving annual maintenance funding from KDOT on your state shared intersections. Sometimes these funds are directed in the general fund, etc. We have an agreement with the state that was signed in 1981, I believe, that basically hands over all maintenance of Highway 24 and that intersection to us. And then the stoplight was put in, I think, was it just, yeah, it was after that agreement was made, but then the agreement wasn't updated to reflect the maintenance of the stoplight. Which, when it's an intersection of 2 state highways, you would think that would be more KDOT's responsibility than but it can be either. It can either be the locals or the state. Due to the volume of system subcomponents that have aged past 10 years, I recommend identifying. He goes back to the life cycle replacement plan type thing. Go ahead to the next one, Josh. Did you have anything to add to all this stuff, Dustin, or no?
Because of the issues with conflict monitors, I'd be some ones on Main Street. Because if there was a wreck down there and we couldn't prove we'd had them tested within 12 months, then they could come back on the city. So I think it was about $700 and some. I had each one replaced. It was pretty cheap insurance policy for It did talk about the age of the cabinets and being concerned. They can't sell us parts. They can't say, yeah, we got one of those on the shelf or whatever. So everything's becoming new. All of this stuff is in the cabinet. So it's about 1998, I think, is when the ones on Main Street were put in also. They're all about the same. I don't know if you've gotten to the cameras or anything yet. So
No, not yet, I don't think. Go ahead to the next one, Josh. I think it's just pictures or pretty close. And then they identify as far as the continued maintenance and some of the items that would be better for us is when we address this. Go ahead. And there's the identification of the 300, which people will know if they've been in Goodland for any sort of time. Here's the inside of the cabinet on 11th and Main, which doesn't look too bad. Go ahead, Josh. 12th and Main, pretty similar, and then go to the Highway 24. There's Highway 24, K27. Your original computer, Commissioner Redland.
It's actually quite impressive.
That it functions as well as it does. And then go ahead to the next one. And then they show the school zone lighting and the control cabinet, obviously with it. 13th of Broadway, which is obviously for the central school. Go ahead. And then Caldwell. And then go ahead. Okay. There's also an issue regarding one of the bigger, well, not bigger, one of the issues when he's mentioning the cameras. Two of the 11th and Main and 12th and Main are basically set on a timer. So they don't recognize vehicles, it's automatic. But the intersection at K27 and High-24, go ahead, Dustin.
yeah, they're on a black and white camera system, so when it was installed, it was probably the cheapest system at the time, which it still worked pretty good. We've had several complaints, especially like cars that are like westbound, sitting there for several minutes. We've cleaned the lenses. We used to be able to had an old monitor, a cube monitor in there, to where you could see the actual zones on the different lanes of traffic, since there's turn lanes and so the camera system is almost obsolete. The cameras work, but the monitor or the piece that it goes into, it won't let you see the zones anymore. It's toast. So that has to be replaced at some time. There was different options, whether stay with black and white cameras, go to AI color cameras, or he said the best option would be radar. So the best option is actually putting where you cut the concrete, put in the sensors and stuff, but that's not what we need out here. So there's different ways to do that, but I've asked Ken a couple different times. I've never seen or never heard of any payments by the state to take care of that. When I was handed over the job or took over the position, I was always under the impression that we bought the bulbs. We did it bi-yearly or twice a year. We go out and clean lenses, replace anything. We transferred everything over to LED. The city's paid for all of that. Not until this guy came in and told us that, oh, this should be a KDOT intersection. I was kind of shocked. But, so there's going to have to be some money spent because of the age of this stuff. It's just determining if we're going to, if we need two intersections on Main Street. That was one of the concerns or questions he had, is size of our town, if we needed two lights within a block of each other, traffic lights. And then when he told me the price of the entire cabinet out there, I think without batteries, or maybe it was with batteries, it was around $65,000. I dropped.
So you said that contract you found was from the early 80s regarding the...
Yes.
In the back in the 80s, I'm sure some of you remember, the traffic device that was out there was a flashing red light, four-way red light. So and we used to maintain that. So we used to have to go up and hopefully people stopped. And they didn't see that light.
I guess I'll ask the question then, because this kind of jogs my memory. This was one of the first questions I got asked right after I got elected, was why do we have stoplights on Main Street? Can't you guys take those out and put in stop signs? So is there a reason we have so many stoplights on Main Street? I don't know what the answer to that question
So
is.
Andrew, I believe when Andrew Fenton was here, he turned in for a KDOT grant, Marion, correct, or remember that? Or to basically see if they were warranted. KDOT or their consultant came out and set up cameras, but I never heard anything on what happened on.
I remember.
I remember they did that, but I don't remember seeing a report.
Right.
That way he could have the justification, are they warranted or are they not?
Yeah.
I never saw a report or anything about that, so.
I haven't come across it. Doesn't mean it's not there, but I haven't come across it.
But, yeah, I know that we're in town,
That'd be worth a look, because I'm guessing there is probably some community support to have them removed. And that might save us some money.
Yes.
Well, if we're having to replace both, those are like $35,000 cabinets. And there's two of them on Main Street. So, and that the battery pack on it is as big as a cabinet. So, I mean that's going to be a rather large piece on a pole downtown. So,
Distracts from the ambiance.
another place for a garage sale sign.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely worth checking into, I think. And then I don't know who we need to get a hold of at KDOT to see where things lie there, if they owe us 40 years of child support, or if things can change moving forward. You know, I think a 40-year-old agreement needs to be revisited at some point, especially if it's completely one-sided, but as far as...
The guy that I talked to is from the Wichita area, and he said he could provide names. I'm not sure if Wichita to Goodland would, if we'd need to go through Norton or wherever our contract's drawn up with. But he said he could provide some information on contacts. So.
That'll take some work, obviously, to get that straightened out.
Yeah.
What we want to make sure is that and it is still functional at this point. I mean, there's some concerns expressed, and there's things that need to be addressed. But at this point, it's functional. So, but it needs to be looked into as early as it's convenient to make sure that we can get it addressed.
So would you say the biggest issue out there to look at first would be the cabinets, the camera system, what?
The device that the cameras are plugged into, because you can't see what the cameras are showing you. So if you get the pole bumped or whatever and the cameras get jostled, they're not going to see what they're supposed to be looking at. They could be 3 foot off and you'd be sitting there. And that was I know that we've had several complaints, especially westbound about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. When you sit there and there's no traffic going and it's just like sit there and sit there. But white vehicles, gray vehicles, silver vehicles, and black vehicles are really hard to pick up black and white. So radar, it doesn't matter in color. You can make there's a lot of stuff you can do with like colored cameras, but I don't know if we need to get through. I know there's talk with PD, stuff like that. There's stuff you can do, but that's out of my
And I guess,
talk.
yeah, I mean, I go east and west on that intersection several times a day. Sometimes it does feel like sit there forever, but I guess question in kind of the same vein as do we need the lights downtown? Do we need a motion camera system for the lights out there? Could they just be put on a timer?
I think you're gonna have to go through the state.
Is that a state?
I think there
decision?
was,
You're gonna have to go through KDOT,
Yeah.
and they may even look at doing something like traffic study, operating see what the justification would be for what you're talking about, what the city has is actually,
Mhm.
right, versus free time. Free time is what you have downtown, and just seeing what's the best fit for that scenario, because every scenario is different.
I do know that 27 is the number one.
The heavier traffic,
So,
for sure.
and
yeah.
it's the green if there's no other traffic, so, because it is a state highway to where 24 is a county highway, so.
I think it can be on free time, because for example, Colby's got two that are on K-25, north and south at free time.
Those are irritating too.
Yeah.
You say there's no traffic. Why
Yeah,
are
when
we-
you're the only one there, and you're still waiting forever, yeah. There's always gonna be reasons to complain, no matter what the system is, but, yeah. Yeah, so I guess, a lot of questions came out of this little discussion, I think. Thank you.
The 81 contract, for sure.
Well, and that may not be as easy to get resolved, but it's worth a discussion and those type of things.
Maybe we just call them and be like, oh yeah, here, let me write you this check. We screwed up. Okay, let's move on to B, Memory Park standpipe proposal. Kent?
This is a proposal that we've received, utility service company. And I'm just letting you know of this amount because we're not finished with the company and we're continue to not get good communication back and forth with this company. But they had the maintenance contract for the downtown standpipe, which is just over a block north of us right now. That roof is having a significant issue. But we still need that standpipe or that location as far as our water distribution system. It is very important for that, its location and the amount of water, especially in the summer. So Neil has stated a number of times that it would affect the system overall to not have that standpipe there. The standpipe, the roof, through some other situations, has an issue with this, with the roof. They give us what their plan is regarding the roof, but we have not received any drawings or plans beyond what's in this proposal for it. And since it's our facility, that's one thing we're asking for before we proceed, is that we have drawings of what they intend to do. It's basically adding another layer to the roof and another support system to the roof to reinforce and raise the current roof to slope for drainage. So that's what it's looking at doing. Neil, did you have anything to add to that type of thing? I have not talked to them in the last week or two, no. Actually, I haven't talked to them for a lot longer than that, but I did not speak to them in the last week or two. But that amount is $67,000 and change. We do have a set amount that, well, it's not set aside, but was identified as part for the ARPA funds to be able to take care of that repair. But we need a couple additional things from the company before we can So that's why it's just a discussion item and just let you know that this is forthcoming. Again, the standpipe is still functional at this point. It isn't presenting any major indication of any problem at this time, but it does need to be addressed. So, do you have anything else?
The only thing that brought this to our attention was when they did a cleaning inspection, they stated that the roof is not quite actually just done this at least 2 years ago, if not 3. And we've been in conversations with the company ever since to resolve this problem. And the supports on the inside are actually bone.
Great. Yeah.
And we use it year round now. Years ago, we used it during the summer, during for the winter, but now we're using it year round. In the summertime, it has gotten us out of some tight spots. Filling up drain, dropping out drain pages, it help our towers and so it is important to the system.
And how much does it store?
90,000.
90,000 gallons.
Well, hopefully the process can pick up the pace a little bit and we can get it resolved before it falls in on itself.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, let's move on to reports then, starting with our city manager, Kent.
Included in your packets of the manager memo is also the month-end financial report for May. We've been in discussion, and Andrew and myself through various communications with KDOT and a Safe Streets for All program. They had just the beginning parts of the intent to apply. Just basically fill out some forms, and the actual application is not due until July. But we've started a conversation with KDOT officials about how that to do. And the Safe Streets for All is kind of the newest name. They used to have a Safe Streets for Schools. Now it's more Safe Streets for All for the entire community. And looking at some sort of pedestrian plan for the community. It kind of relates back to the, we've also had inquiries from a couple different sources coming from different directions regarding a couple different issues. One is regarding the traffic signals, as far as pedestrian traffic that makes it out to the commercial corridor along K-27, whether to purchase things out there or to work out there. There's not a good way to get across Highway 24 or K-27 for pedestrians or bikes or all the other little things that people are using these days to travel around.
Yeah. And there is quite a lot of foot traffic out there these days. There
Yes,
really
sir.
is. So.
And I mean, I've noticed it, but it's nice, you know, that other people are noticing as well. That there's not a way, and that's something that Dustin had talked with as far as that also, regarding that traffic signal, to have a better way, you know. Whether it's at the intersection, it would take far more, and it would take KDOT's assistance to have it separated from the intersection, as an idea, to try to separate the two. But all of that would require, what KDOT likes to see is for Safe Streets for All, have a planning grant for 1 year and then an implementation grant for the following year. And then, and also with our school crossings on the various streets in town. What could be a better plan of action regarding those? But we're starting to talk to them of whether a pedestrian plan or what's the parameters of the pedestrian plan, and then to submit a grant. A grant right now would end up being, out of the 100% for the grant, 80% would be federal funded, 10% KDOT funded, then you get another 5% for being in a rural area, and you have 95% of the grant paid for, the planning grant. The 5% would remain us. They also have a moniker that if it would be multi-jurisdictional, you could get the remaining 5% paid for as well. Don't know if we have the criteria to include school district or something else that would qualify as multi-jurisdictional, but we're investigating it, and we will come back to the commission before the grant is submitted to get the approval of the commission to submit the grant. So, wanted to let you know that. The moderate income housing grant, the next round was resubmitted this last week, and we will see that. Tomorrow they're announcing the cost share grant. The cities that are awarded on the cost share grant, and if you remember, we submitted a grant application for Caldwell on the cost share. So we'll not expecting any great guns, but it is tomorrow. Dustin, I think it would be better coming from you. Could you give an update on the electrical project at the Diesel Technology Building?
Thursday morning at 7:30, shut power off to
start replacing transformers and tearing the Diesel Technology doghouse out, which is going to be right in the middle of part of their addition. The transformers for the south dorm, the north dorm, and then Irvin's pivot were all replaced. The 500 kVA pad mount for Diesel Technology was set. It is ready to be energized. Everything else was back up by Friday about 3 o'clock. We had to shut auto body off for a few hours to isolate the feed over to the diesel. So right now we have a new feed off of the 13.8 that feeds the 4 transformers that were replaced. So I believe it's going to be better for the city over in that area, better for the college in that area. The transformer that was placed for the diesel is ready to be ready for their electrician to connect wires whenever he gets them pulled in. So we did not energize that, waiting for him to get, just safety reason, waiting for him to get his wire in on his side. So we're ready to go. Everything went pretty well. I think it's just going to be good for both the college and the city. So we did see a squirrel get hit over there Thursday as we're prepping some wires in a splice box. So might have to do some squirrel proofing on some 13. But yeah, other than that, it went pretty well. Really. So got to figure up some I guess some paperwork for Mary in the next couple of days, so we could build that project out to the college and then on to the next project.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Building official had to leave, so I don't have, there are a couple structures that will be on an upcoming agenda, probably the next agenda. So we'll get to start working on the next structure. So that was about all the information, and That's all I have for this evening.
Do you have any questions or comments for our city manager? I do have one, just speaking of unfit structures. Have you gotten any word yet on the house over on Caldwell that's 3/4 of the way tore down as to when that may be completed?
It's down to one wall.
Any get back at it?
I think there's no walls.
Is there no wall?
There's no walls.
I didn't
There's
check
a hole
it
there
today.
now.
Okay.
Okay. Last week it was down to the very last wall.
Well, good. Good to hear. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Move on to commissioner reports. We'll start down here on my right side with Commissioner Showalter.
Kudos to Dustin's crew on the work that they've done over there. I know anytime our guys dig on our campus, we usually cut fiber lines to something, so kudos that you guys didn't cut anything. So, all the band, yeah, that stuff I'm not worried about. It's the live stuff I'm concerned about. So thank you. I know you guys worked your butts off over there, so appreciate that. I know we got a new face in the room. Does he want to step up to the stage and introduce himself? I met you last week, so I told you I was gonna make you say hi to everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you beat me to it then.
It would have been here early.
Right.
Like I always am.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Matt Price. I am the new editor of the Goodland Star here. And so we'll be seeing each other every other week, apparently, coming up. So it's good to be here. Good to be in Goodland.
Welcome to our community, Matt. We appreciate it.
Yep, glad to have you. Thank you.
That's all I've got.
Okay, Commissioner Myers,
Nothing at this point?
Commissioner Howard,
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Redland.
Just one thing regarding, I like the new sound system on Main Street. I think it's going to be a good thing for people to utilize for one thing, the Flatlanders event. I'm really looking forward to that, but then just the availability for people to utilize music on their particular blocks. One thing is I think we need to do something to get people like information on how to if they need to change music or if they don't want music on, like who do they contact? I've been getting a lot of messages about that.
Okay.
So just so people can be informed, so if they have events going on, so that they can prioritize and get things handled beforehand.
Sure.
Thank you.
You bet.
That's it.
Okay, and for my mayor's report, I have nothing more to add. How long do you think we need? 10 minutes?
Yeah, at most.
Us and that guy?
Yes, and the city clerk.
And the city clerk. Okay, well then I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session under KSA 75-4319B5 to discuss matters relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a person as a student, patient, or a resident of a public institution. I'm going to need the city commissioners, the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk for a period of 10 minutes. Is the motion on the floor?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Howard. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Time is 7:03. Call this meeting back to order. Anybody have anything else to discuss this evening? Not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Redland. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.